Yeah, so David, thanks for your time. I've remembered you emerging into this API scene, at least from my knowledge, for at least 8 years. And I remember hearing about what you've been doing. We might have even bumped into each other at a bunch of conferences. So maybe just start with your history around this space and tell us what you're up to.
Sure. So my co-founder and I have been working APIs for 8 or 9 years. Originally, we were looking at it from a gateway perspective and integrating into different API stacks. And about 6 years ago, that led us to realize that we had zero idea whether the APIs we worked with worked. And it came to a head with a client we were consulting for that their marketing team didn't know whether the APIs they were trying to sell worked. And DevOps internally in the company was saying everything's fine, and developers were telling them that their stuff was crap and they were using Twilio instead. So we realized that there was a gap in the instrumentation market, and we hit upon the same concept that John Musser did at API Science, that John Sheehan did at RunScope, and coming out from a slightly different direction, Abhinav Avista at Postman, and also Patrick Pullen at API Fortress. We all centered on the fact that there needed to be a new class of API tools. And I think where we slightly diverged about 4 years ago is we realized that the problem wasn't necessarily testing APIs. There were lots of solutions for that. And frankly, everybody was using Postman anyway. But there was a real question about what the data told you. And we've been like pack rats with our data. We're obviously a much smaller company than Postman, but we've got something like 5 to 6 times as much data under management. And we've never thrown away an API call. We've got stored metadata of every API transaction made to our product. And we started to realize that there was no real way of agreeing what was good or bad in the API sector. And this is something I've been saying at conferences for you've probably seen one of my talks 4 or 5 years now, of APIs they're almost like quantum physics. They could be up and down at the same time. And two businesses looking at the same API can have wildly different views of how they work. And what we wanted to come up with was, well, how do you address the question of quality? And how do you come up with something that allows non-engineers to actually understand what's going on with critical systems? And as APImetrics has evolved, particularly as open API standards have become essential in sectors like travel and finance and healthcare, there's actually a requirement for non-engineering monitoring or monitoring that tells business owners and business leaders what they're missing and what they need to know in case of a regulatory dispute, or just to be sure that they're offering a service that's comparable to a competitor. The way we see it with the regulators that we work with in fintech is, how do they regulate a dispute where both parties can prove the other one is wrong? And one of the challenges with the existing DevOps tooling and DevOps monitoring is both groups can come with receipts to prove the other one is not telling the truth. But the truth exists. There will be a reason for it, but it may not be anybody's particular fault. It might just be an architectural issue, a cross-cloud problem. But we started realizing that's where we wanted to be and what we wanted to focus on. And that's where APImetrics is being utilized now.